Welcome back to Fresh Corduroy. I'm your host, Craig Zolan. Today's guest is three-time Olympian Resi Stiegler, a longtime member of the U.S. ski team and one of the most recognizable personalities on the World Cup slalom circuit. Resi grew up in Jackson Hole, the daughter of Olympic slalom champion Pepi Stiegler, and she went on to build a remarkable career of her own, racing World Cup for more than a decade and representing the United States at 3 Olympic Games. In this episode, we talk about what it was like growing up skiing every day in Jackson Hole, the path that took her onto the U.S. ski team at just 15 years old, and what it actually feels like to step into the start gate at a World Cup race under the lights with thousands of fans watching. We also discuss the injuries that nearly derailed her career, the unique pressure of competing at the Olympics, and why some of her most meaningful memories from the sport have nothing to do with results, but everything to do with those early mornings on the mountain and perfect corduroy. If you enjoy these conversations with the people who shape ski culture, please follow Fresh Corduroy wherever you listen to podcasts and share the episode with a friend who loves skiing. Now, let's get some Fresh Corduroy with Resi Stiegler. Resi, welcome to Fresh Corduroy.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
My pleasure. Let's dive right in. What is the Resi skiing origin story? Where and when did you get started skiing?
Ooh, I'm very lucky. I was born and raised in Jackson Hole. My dad, Pepi Stiegler, was an Austrian gold medalist, and he came here in 1964, right after he won the gold medal in Innsbruck. And he started off like this American dream for himself. And I was lucky enough to be a product of that. So he raised me, and my mom came from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, a Youper, and also loved skiing. She wasn't a racer, but they met and raised me and my brother Seppi here in Jackson Hole. And I got really lucky that it just like turned out to be I always say our daycare, because, back then it was a little bit different. We went with my dad. My dad could ski over to the mountain and drop us off at the Kinderschule, which is what they had back in the day. And we just, fell in love with skiing that way. And it was really like a magical way to grow up.
So I imagine you got onto skis very early age.
I like my baby books and my parents say, I think around 2. Which I have amazing photos of me and my dad's carrier. Yeah, the front carrier, like a baby Bjorn, and from the 80s, whatever that would have been. But I love it that I have all these memories and got to, I still live in the same place. So it's pretty cool to be able to like look back, and now I'm raising kids that way as well. So
yeah. Is there a memory of you skiing or doing something on snow, at an early age that you look back fondly, and that's like one of those, indelible memories?
I mean, I can only really like the earliest memories will always be just this freedom. I can't express that enough of how I was raised and why I love skiing so much. And throughout my whole career, I loved it so much. But just this freedom of going to the mountain. And I know like the ski patrollers and, Nathan Emerson, NATO, if anyone's out here, they know him. Just people that I guess the memories are the people, and they were always checking on us. And I remember, skiing all day long to the point of like probably peeing my pants most of the days, because I was either the only girl or I like just didn't have any or a lot of supervision. I was just always skiing, and I'd go in, and my dad had an office in the clock tower, which people will remember, and going in there and taking a nap on his couch. And I don't know, it was just it was just such a special time to be, a kid and be able to go play in the woods and ski all day and make friends. And those friends, I still know all of them. And I don't know, it's just really cool to be able to have that.
That what you've described is common among many of the guests that I've had, and of course with other friends of mine who love skiing.
Yeah.
It's just that if you started off very young, you're dropped off at the mountain, and it's this world that you have freedom within, and you get
Yes.
cruise around the mountain. You feel like you can go anywhere and do anything, and you know that at the end of the day, there are people around that can help you if need be.
Yeah, I think that I mean, it's so much different now, and I try to give that a little bit to my girls now, but it's just not the same, you know?
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, I guess it depends on where. I don't know what it's like at Jackson Hole, but at the local mountain that I grew up skiing at, my parents literally would drop me off at age 8 and come back and pick me up,
yeah.
at 4 o'clock, and basically,
I know, it's so cool. I mean, I think we have a pretty special mountain that you're almost able to do that, but there weren't 600 employees back then, so
right.
it's a little bit different, but it's really cool, and a lot of those people are still around. I see a lot of them. They're still kicking it. Some of them are still working out there, which is amazing, and yeah, it's a cool experience.
And so, what was it like growing up with a father who was on the Austrian ski team, and won a gold medal, as you said, at the Olympics? Um, aside from obviously having the ability to go out your back door and go skiing all the time, was there sort of a push towards ski racing, or were you free to do whatever you wanted?
I was so lucky. I didn't have well, I guess it's you can go say it both ways. I did not have pushy parents. My mother was very strict and she had a vision. My mother probably was the one that pushed me and got me into skiing. My dad was the one that created the passion for it. And he wanted me to have a really good education and he wanted me to have fun. Whenever I talked to him about it, I would come home from races and talk to him about, a result. And he was just like, well, how are you feeling? And he could read the expressions on my face and kind of give me some kind of tip or I don't know. He would always say the right thing, which was so awesome. And, growing up with that, with having a gold medalist dad, I just assumed I would get one, which was a rude awakening. But I thought you signed up for the Olympics and, every school project was about my dad. So it was cool, very cool to have him as a father and father figure and, kind of this inspiration to follow in his footsteps. I just loved that. And yeah, he taught me a lot of just rooted things that enjoy what you're doing, work hard for those things. And I think that's in the end, if you have somebody that can push you that way, it's really, you know, your results, it's one thing. You can always wish that you got a better result, wish that you got the gold medal, but I really just was lucky enough to have parents who taught me how to enjoy what I do and work hard for those things.
And so, tell me your path, from a tot running around Jackson Hole,
Yeah.
and making the U.S. ski team at a relatively young age, and obviously going on to ski at World Cup. That's probably a pretty long timeline there, but what's the progression in terms of your career path?
Yeah, I started out just out at TVS, which is, out at the Village. It was the club team at the time, and then I moved over to Jackson Hole Ski Club, and that was kind of a serious deal. I remember, I think it was around 7 or 8, or we'd started racing at 6. We raced so like just fun little races, and then I think I like clearly was a little bit better at the time. I remember, going to those private training sessions with NATO and then him telling my parents, okay, I think she's pretty good. Let's put her onto the, track of racing. And so then I remember going over to Jackson Hole Ski Club and just, night skiing. That was also a new experience. We have a town hill, Snow King, which was really fun to grow up that way as well. After school, racing over to the mountain and getting out there. I had amazing coaches at the time. I had Keena Pickett and Sean Clark, who were also like just great skiers. And they taught us a lot. Same thing where it was like always about passion for skiing. So maybe less training at the time, which now you look back and of course that can always change and what's evolved in skiing. People are training so much. So yeah, then I just happened to be, I think, better and had some good results. I had Seth McAdam. He was awesome. A real, like as a J3, that was, going back in time. But he really got me going on realizing that racing was the thing and what your goals were. And I made the ski team at a really young age. I was 15 going on to the development program with Aldo Radamus, and Little River was there as well. I think he was like 2 or 3. He was a toddler. So yeah, and then I had the fast track for that age group. I was, racing my first World Cup at 16, and that was wild. I didn't know what I was doing, but it was really fun. I mean, I can't express how much fun I had in my career. I was very lucky to be always having a good time.
Yeah, I think your outward appearance, the perception that the fan would, see of you is that you obviously enjoyed yourself, and I think you both skied and lived with this free attitude. I don't know how to
Mhm.
describe it. I mean, it's with your bunny ears slash tiger ears,
Yeah,
on your helmet. Like you had a joie de vivre about it.
thank you.
And so, like, is that just you and your personality, or was it something that you were trying to express through skiing?
I think that was naturally who I've always been. I've always been a more positive thinker. I really truly believe in that. I think it's very powerful. It's very enlightening. It gives other people good energy, and it's come at a consequence a lot of times. I was always the fun one. I was very serious. I'm very focused, and I have a lot of, that like drive and determination, but it's sort of underneath all of the fun. And so I think I was always going to have a good time. I didn't want to, I didn't want to go far from that. But I think some of the times there were, people misread like my kind of energy for being unfocused. Or, I mean, you can look back and you can always be more focused and you can train harder. I loved getting older because I learned a lot. And I did love, like, at the end of my career, becoming more and more focused. But I would say, especially with having injuries, it really helped to be that positive, like, free spirit because, I mean, it got me through a lot of hard times. And I also like to portray the good, easy energy because I don't think anyone needs like more intensity or more negativity in the world. So for me, it was very easy. It's always been easy to be a positive person, and I know that's not easy for everyone. So I guess I kind of like to be the one that can be the shining light and give you a little va va boom, whatever it is,
Yeah. Yeah, no one's accused me of ever having Vava Boom, but I do know what you mean. The and I understand the challenge that being that free spirit may create with respect to coaches, perhaps chastising you for not being focused enough or disciplined enough or what have you. Like, how
Mm.
did you balance that? Or and you said perhaps it came with age. How do you push back? And I've seen that with other athletes who coaches don't quite grasp what's there. There's multiple layers, basically, is what you're describing. And so, how did you deal with that conundrum, if there was one?
I think it was like this beautiful learning experience. I had coaches that understood me from the very beginning that I needed to have, a good time. If I had a bad race, I needed to go free skiing, go ski some powder, or just go free skiing and enjoy fresh air and my own thoughts. A lot of coaches, I had great coaches. I had Seth and Trevor Wagner, and just coaches that were also very free spirited themselves. Patrick Rimmel was one of my, biggest, longest running coaches that I had. And he's Austrian. He's very strict as well. And so I understood, I think coming from a family that had an Austrian father, I understood
Yeah.
where I needed to be and when. And but I also was lucky enough to have people, like Patrick, or later on I had Magnus, who was really influential in the, later part of my career, but that understood who I really was and that I was like fiercely competitive. Just I had to be like a little bit, doing my own thing, or kind of, like watching athletes now, it's so nice to see an athlete like Lucas who, is really given that chance to be himself, and no one, he makes it happen, and that's really really cool to see. So to put it simply, it's just nice to see some other athletes that also have that free spirit and have the success that some of us didn't have or didn't accomplish. Because I think everyone out there is working hard, and I think most people can tell I only had a few bad apples that only taught me more. They only made it they made it a challenge, but they also gave me the opportunity to learn about myself and get better. And sometimes I had like great success with those bad apples. And I think that it's all telling. So, yeah.
What is it like stepping onto the World Cup circuit? I mean, it, I never competed at that level by any stretch. But I did have a conversation with someone. Do officiate at ski races, or I have, and someone, a TD, was like, "Look, I've officiated at World Cup races and little kids races, and you know what? There's a start, there's a bunch of gates, and there's a finish. They're basically the same. What is it like from an athlete's perspective, stepping into the World Cup circuit and racing at that level, as compared to, the U14s that are racing locally at Jackson
Yeah.
Hole?"
For me, it was like a show. It was so fun. It was like stepping into your own little, theater experience. I really loved putting on a show. I loved the intensity. I loved the minutes before you went out of the gate. Just this moment. I loved the fans. I loved, like big races like Zagreb and Flachau. I just absolutely adored those races because they were, it really felt like you were under the lights. So it really was like that. You had this opportunity to shine and to like prove yourself and put on a show. And I loved that. I wasn't as good at training. I really learned that later on, like when Michaela came on tour and she was training all the time. I was like, oh, I don't dislike the process of training. I just, the second I'm in the gate for a race, I could do that over and over and over again. If you put me in the gate tomorrow, I'd be like thriving. It was more the training, the endless training, the always traveling. Those are the things that like are taxing. Injuries are taxing, that kind of thing. So the World Cup, it really felt like this big event always, and it was so exciting, especially those traditional races. And I loved feeling like, okay, here's the next race weekend. It does feel different. It's really special. And especially as an American, you're going over there and, they love Americans. At the time, no, I'm just kidding. Bad joke. But
No, I know
they,
what you're talking about. I was just in
no, I
France,
think,
and
yeah.
yeah.
But there was this, like I think a lot of people really like to watch the Americans race, and most of the athletes that I was racing at the time were free spirited. So, there was just a lot of personality, character coming out, and you could really show that on the big stage. And I also loved racing any other race, a Europa Cup or anything. I kind of liked the Europa Cup sometimes if you got sent down to one, if you will, just the feeling of going back to the trenches and fighting tooth and nail and being like, okay, I'm ranked top 15 in the world and I just got 63rd in a Europa Cup. Like, what is wrong with me? It was just such it was a good fight, and it got you back into, a headspace that you needed to be, which was fighting a little bit, but the World Cup feels really good. It should be a good goal for everyone that's racing.
Yeah. What you describe is different than what I've heard from others who, talk, almost have the flip side, opposite. They love training. They love the practicing and the process about getting better. But
Yeah.
the moment they step into the gate, they feel, pressure and nerves. And, again, it varies by individual, but what you're describing is really the complete opposite side of the coin.
I know. I think I struggle a little bit with that because there were times when my coaches had to talk to me about, getting the training to come up to the speed that I was doing in the race, because I would get out of the gate. I was like a racehorse. I just flew out of the gate and had all this speed and didn't know what to do with it a lot of the times. And that's, I think, where a lot of the mistakes were coming from. I was one that would have a section that was really fast and then a mistake, or, the injuries or whatever it is. consistency in the races were hard because in training I just could never get to that. I was like the one that was getting beat by 2 seconds in training. And then that's hard also because you're trying to mentally prepare for a race that's coming up and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so far behind. What's wrong with me?" And that was just how my training was. And sometimes I could get it up to like a speed that it needed to be, but it was never like it was in a race. I couldn't get the adrenaline. I loved the adrenaline.
Yeah.
I loved the, like, there was like a, that tunnel feeling when I got in the gate for racing that I just couldn't, do the same thing in training.
You couldn't mimic it. Yeah, I
No.
mean, yeah. The saying is, race like you train and train like you race, and
Yeah, I
that
didn't have that.
that balance can be difficult to achieve, regardless of which side of that coin that you fall on.
Yeah.
Um, you've talked about injuries a number of times. You've had a few. You've had perhaps
Yes.
more than your fair share.
Yes.
Yeah, talk about the injuries and what it's like to sort of suffer them and then build yourself back up to World Cup level, and obviously you have the mindset to tough it out, if you will. So
Yeah.
what is it like for you? And you've obviously described the injuries and what it was like coming back.
Yeah, I was a kid that had never like probably even been to the ER before my first, injury. I wasn't one of those kids that went for stitches every 2 weeks as a kid. I injured myself in 2007 in Lien's, and from there on I just had like this really bad luck kind of thing going on. I don't know what was going on. I just kept getting injured. And you can look back and like there were parts where you came back too early or you just weren't strong enough. And, I think I was 21 at the time. So you learned a lot. I think injuries are phenomenal for a lot of athletes because it teaches you to come back. It teaches you to like work on these tiny little things and get stronger. And a lot of kids, if you're racing at 16 years old, you're not using muscles or you're not working out quite as, you know, focused as you are
Yeah.
when you're in your 20s and 30s, right? So I skied all the way to 35. So there was a huge difference from 16 to 35 on what you're aware of. And injuries really helped me. So there's a part of me that was like, okay, a few of those were, you know, that helped me get to the next phase of ski racing. Um, some of them were, I mean, I broke my femur, I broke my, hurt my knees quite a few times. I broke tibias and fibias and hands and, arms and feet. And, you're just like, after a while, you're just like, what is going on here? But then I think I got in a pretty good groove closer to the end, that I just was really strong and I could, get through that. But yeah, being positive really helped. Obviously, that's who I am. I was never going to go out on an injury. That is something I can tell you, I think is as an athlete and like advice for anyone that, you're so focused and there's such a plan to come back from an injury just every day, all the way until you're back on snow. That part was easy. It was once you're back on snow and you sort of don't have this like day-to-day routine and, weekly check that you have to, like 1 week out of surgery, you have something, then 2 weeks out, then 6 weeks out, you once you got back on snow, you're like, oh, now you just have to be fast again. And that there was a little bit of a struggle there. And so it would take me a certain amount of time to get back up to speed. And then that's usually when I got injured again, which was tough for a few years. There was a stretch there that was very difficult. And I also went to therapy, which is something I advise people to do. It wasn't something I could do on my own, and I got a lot of help, and it got me through, another couple years. So, yeah, I think you need all the help you can get, but, yeah,
So,
injuries aren't great. They're very difficult mentally,
no, yeah.
physically, all of it.
Yeah, I shared this, I think, not during the recorded episode, but with Tommy Biesmeyer. A buddy of
Yes.
mine happened to help you and Tommy off an elevator in Vail right
Oh
after
my
the
God.
2018 Olympics.
That
I
might have
guess
been our lowest point in life.
yes, he literally, said that you looked like you had just been in a fight and lost.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
So I personally don't have, but somebody had firsthand experience, like a knowledge of what you went through at least.
That was also hauling like 18 bags with a broken leg because we were coming back from Korea from the whole season,
Yeah,
headed to Vail. Oh my gosh, that was definitely a downer. That might, I think for Tommy and I, actually, that particular injury was a real dagger to the heart. You know, when it's anyone who gets injured at the Olympics, I feel for you.
yeah,
I've been there and it's horrible. It feels, you've made it all this way and you just didn't get to do what you wanted to do. And you're hauling your bags all the way back to get surgery. But um, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
also I have one note on surgery and good doctors. I've had phenomenal doctors and I feel great at my age. So I think that's another key thing to have is a really good doctor and a plan and, make it, you have to live the rest of your life with this body and you don't want to mess around with it. So
right.
I don't know.
So speaking of the Olympics and big moments, right? We're just past Milan Cortina. A lot
Yes.
of people still are getting over the hangover of not being able to watch the Olympics anymore. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about the pressure, the differences between competing at the Olympics and the regular ho hum World Cup schedule.
Yeah.
um, what
Yeah.
what is the difference? I mean, to the ski race, but there's
Hmm.
clearly a different level of attention paid and different circumstances. So describe the environment at the Olympics versus World Cup.
Well, funny enough to be the person that loved the attention and the, intensity of a race, I was not good at racing at the Olympics. And I can say that now. I didn't realize that at the time. Something, I don't know what was going on. I could not get my ducks in a row for that thing.
Yeah,
Unlike my dad, who was just apparently a natural, Olympic gold medalist, but yeah, we talked a lot about it with my dad actually after the very first Olympics. I went in Torino. I had these big expectations. I was actually pretty young. I was 18. I didn't feel young. I felt like, okay, this is the time to win a gold medal. And I just didn't even know what I was talking about or doing. And so you go to this big event, there's a lot of, Americans are working on photo shoots and press stuff all the way through the summer prior to the Olympics, which is one thing I don't think a lot of people realize. And then also, obviously, we race every year, all year, the World Cup, and we have World Championships, which is like very exciting for a ski racer. And then the Olympics come around, and every American's watching you, and you have there's just so much expectation, and you could be the winner, you could be a lucky winner. Or you could work super hard and have gotten fourth place or whatever it is, or last, it doesn't matter. It's very hard. The Olympics are, I think, a very emotional race. It's you have to go into it. So I went into a couple other ones more like, let's enjoy this experience, and that helped a lot. In Sochi, I went to the gold medal hockey game. I went to ski jumping. I went to Nordic combined. I had a lot of buddies who did Nordic combined and they won the gold medal. It was just, I think they won in Whistler. But, anyways, the point is that I think once I relaxed on that, I still didn't win the gold medal. So it's like, it was just a funny one. It just never lined up for me. And I really have to say that the people who win the gold medals, it's so inspirational to watch. But I think there's been some really good articles written by Ted and Tommy and a bunch of people talking about how, the best athlete doesn't always win. That doesn't mean that the best, that the winner didn't earn it or something like that.
right.
Just there are some really phenomenal athletes out there that don't get the gold medal. And I mean, if you can look at Michaela and how long it took her in between two gold slalom medals, you would never even, as a slalom racer, you would think she would win all of them, right?
Right.
So you can tell it's just like it is a very strange race sometimes for a sport that has races all year and a whole, schedule of World Cup and World Championships than to have a World Cup or to have the Olympics and just be able to perform on that one certain day. So many things can go well and so many things can go wrong.
Yeah, clearly. And this past Winter's Olympics with, say, Otley McGrath going out after leading the first run, and Lena Dewar,
Yeah. Lena's straddle gave me like Marley Shields straddled the first gate of when Michaela won her first gold medal. I was right behind her. And I was like, so there's like I don't know. And then you see other athletes like the ice skater, and you just are like, oh my gosh, I think the whole time the Olympic, I just cry like every competition, because I'm like, this is just so incredible and so hard, and you know what all the athletes are doing, and I don't know, it's a wild it's like kind of a wild couple weeks,
a lot
but
easier to be on this side of the TV, if you will, watching it.
totally. Totally. I loved watching it this year. It was really special. It felt like it was great to watch. I don't know why. Maybe because I have kids now and they're so excited to watch.
Yeah. Did they get a chance to watch it and enjoy the? I don't know if they played. I don't. I watch streaming now, but when I was a kid and
I
watching the Olympics, you remember the pomp and circumstance, the John Williams theme song to the Olympics, like.
Yes. Yes. I have to say I was obsessed with the Peacock like coverage, because you could go on there and, pick out, my kids were so into curling and bobsledding, and obviously everyone loves ice skating, but they were funny. Like, every morning I was like, okay, we're just going to go free reign on the TV, on the computer, and you can pick out whatever you want to watch. And they were just like picking, all different kinds of things, and you could watch the training, and I really enjoyed that, and the kids loved watching all the different sports.
So you have three now. In fact, your
Yes.
recent addition.
Yes.
Are the older ones? I don't. They're on skis. Like, how much are they participating these days at on snow?
Well, the older ones, Rosie just turned 4, and the next one is going to turn 2 in a few weeks. Rosie got on snow early, 1.5-ish. Romy also around that time, and I just carry him in between my legs the first year, and I just go out as much as I can. I'm a full-time mom. Obviously, I have some other work things, but I just want to be able to take care of my kids as much as I can. I know from other people, they're in school at 5 and you might never see them again with sports in school. But I really wanted to give them that opportunity. I also had kids at an older age, so I really felt like this was my calling. Yeah, Rosie's obsessed with skiing now. It's so fun to watch. I feel like I'm watching myself. Like, I don't understand. It's the weirdest feeling. They just, again, I'm creating this life that they don't really have a choice, but they seem to enjoy it. I'm not going to force them to do anything they don't want to do, but I'm going to put them in a place where they can get the best that they can. And skiing every day at Jackson Hole, it has to be the best, right?
So they say. I've never skied there, but one day.
Yes, we are the best. No, Jackson is amazing. Yeah, so it's really cool to watch them just love skiing as much as you do at the moment.
Yeah. Well, your husband, David, is also
Yes.
an ex ski racer.
Yes.
Is it ex? I mean, I guess I don't know
Yeah.
if he's racing on the pro tour at all.
He does do some pro tour stuff, and right now he has a full-time job that he couldn't do the pro tour this year, but he did it last year. He's won some of those events, and he raced for Germany on the World Cup as well, Slalom and GS. So it's easy. It's nice to have a partner like that.
Yeah. So
who understands it all.
The apples won't fall far from the trees.
No, the big question is who they'll race for, Germany or the US. That's the big question, right?
I guess you'll have a few years to decide that.
Yes.
Before you sign up for your first FIS license.
Right.
So I guess beyond, I was going to say beyond the race course, obviously it's motherhood and raising kids. But you still have a family named ski camp that you
Yes.
have been running, I guess. So
Yeah.
tell us about the ski camp and sort of passing it along to the next generation.
Yeah, so I am a full-time mother, but I'm able to do ski camps with my brother, Stiegler Racing ski camps. And I mean, for me, it's the best thing ever to be able to like dive in and work with this next generation. I love the age group and energy that we have. My brother is a phenomenal coach and he puts on these great camps and I can kind of come along. He does all the work. he he coaches out at NICEF right now and he has worked with some other athletes privately and he's just has an eye for it. So I'm learning a lot from him, which is cool as a coach. I really love like I don't know, I love like these athletes that want to make it to the next level that just need that extra help and that's what our camps are for. You know, they're to bring you to like that next level that you have your eye on. And so we have a couple great racers that have come through our program. One's racing on the World Cup right now for Germany and another one is at college and we like you know, like it doesn't matter where you're coming from or where you're going as long as we can like boost you up and kind of give you like exactly what you need. And yeah, I love doing the camps. My kids come with me, they learn a lot. They're at video sessions learning. That's why Rosie can carve so well. Just kidding. And then, yeah, and then I have clients at Jackson Hole Mountain Resort and I'm on a couple boards and there's just all these fun things that you can do after ski racing. And mostly, and my number one thing is just being a great mom. That's my goal.
That's great. Yeah, funny thing, I have met your brother briefly in a timing
Oh yeah.
shack in the
Oh.
East.
Was he checking on the times for his athletes? No, just kidding.
Probably protesting some deal
Yeah,
ski.
protesting something. No, he loves it. That's a really cool thing for him. He's out east, and that's something our family's never done. So, he's getting a phenomenal ski season out of it this year.
Yeah, this
But
year, this is the place to be, exactly.
right, I know. So I'm excited for him.
Yeah.
So.
Um, what about free skiing and big mountain skiing? One thinks about having grown up at Jackson Hole
Mhm.
and skiing there now, that having that kind of a mountain as your backyard and playground helps development as well. I mean, in terms of how would you ascribe just being able to go ski shoots or trees or like the
The
various
best.
features, yeah,
Yeah.
like how does that impact your perspective of training? Is it like all gates all the time, or should it be balanced with the alternative free skiing stuff?
I mean, I was raised with free skiing mostly as our training. I then, went to a couple Eric Seiler camps when I was really young and I learned, oh my gosh, there's these kids that don't even, they only ski gates. This is absurd. Um, but they were all the best skiers, the best skiers were coming from these tiny mountains in, these trash dumps in the Midwest and then these ice hills in the East that you heard of. And they were all training, 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 and then obviously Michaela really proved that, and, yeah, we didn't have the training like that. We weren't raised that way, but I did think that, jumping into Super G and downhill at the beginning of my career was really easy. I understood, air awareness, body awareness. I loved speed. It was so fun. Um, Jen being able to go free ski anywhere, being so happy if you did get to go free skiing. So I think it was really helpful for me personally. I felt like that was how I was a well-rounded athlete. And I also think that that's why I lasted so long in skiing because it was something I could do and I loved doing it. It was, very natural to go free skiing. And I think I mean, now you look at so many athletes, some athlete, I think Paula was talking about it one time, was just gymnastics. She did a ton of gymnastics, and she always thought that really helped her and with her body awareness. And I do think things like that are what Ted was talking about doing other sports, the kids that played tennis really competitively, or, I swam and had soccer. And I just think not just doing skiing also helped a lot. So, being able to free ski is really key. I think kids these days don't have as much of that. They are solely focused on training and I mean,
But listen, as someone who grew up at a relatively small mountain and frankly boring,
yeah,
like you're gonna do something that excites you, and training, could excite you. It's like something to do,
totally.
and you're
Yeah.
doing it with other kids, and you're social. So
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
understand the
The training part.
yeah,
I also think, I mean, look at Buck Hill. Like for when I went there, I just could not believe it. I was like, this is a joke. This is what is this place? But it like it all the kids there loved skiing. That didn't take away from like what they love to do. So
no, it
I
doesn't.
agree with you completely.
Yeah,
And I think I just really like being able to free ski. And also now, now I'm only going to free ski. So it's helpful.
yes. It is. But you mentioned, having air awareness and, big mountain skiing,
Mhm.
background, allowed you to jump into speed events, with relative ease. Why did you choose slalom as your specialty?
Craig, that's the big question. No, I'm just kidding.
You're still asking it,
I
huh?
know, I'm joking. I look back and I'm like, why did I ever stop speed? I never got hurt in speed, but I had a couple injuries in a row there and I was better at slalom. Let's be honest. I wasn't getting top tens in downhill and super G at the time. And so my coaches were sort of trying to point me in the direction of not doing every event so that I could really focus on slalom, even taking away GS sometimes, which was really difficult for me. But I look back and that was the right thing to do to get the right results and like grow in slalom. And but I could have gotten back into speed. I think it is so fun. And if I could go back, I would have probably tried to do a little bit more speed. A little bit, it looks a little easier on the body, but I never want to say something it's not easier. It just like sometimes, unless you have those really horrific crashes. But slalom and GS, those that is like ever evolving, quick, and you've got to be on your toes all the time. So and like constantly getting better. I feel like one thing I did enjoy with speed that I talked to, I think Lindsay one time was how over time the courses became so comfortable for them, because a lot of, it's for the men, if you do Kitzbühel downhill for 10-15 years, that person is going to most likely be better at that course than, the new guy on tour because they've been doing that and it's the same course or some very, very similar. And yeah, that's a big difference for speed and tech, but yeah, it's all
So
good.
it's good. Um, yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those questions that do you specialize? And I guess to ask you another question, if you think about the World Cup today, Emma Eicher is competing in all four events,
Yes.
and doing
Yes.
well in all four. Is that
Yes.
she an anomaly? Is she completely just I
Oh
don't
my
know.
gosh, I love watching her. I get so many funny memories. It's such a topic to really discuss. She'll go from here to here though. If you see some of her tougher days, they look like, oh, was that exhaustion? It wasn't, it's like a mistake that looks like she could have maybe like I don't want to ever be rude to an athlete. It looks like a mistake that could have been, you know, avoided. And you're like, okay, is that exhaustion? And knowing a little bit how, say, Michaela picked some of those races that she didn't, she could have won a downhill, but she chose not to because she maybe was tired or knew she was going to get ready for the slalom so that she could 100% win the slalom. Those are like, that's a big conversation. But as far as like what type of athlete you are, and if you really enjoy it, I think you should totally do it. And I think more athletes should try doing it. Look at Sarah Hector when she started doing the slalom. She skis slalom so well. She almost won that gold medal in um, uh, China. So you're like, oh my gosh, I think she was always doing GS and Super G or whatever it was at the time. But I think there's very few athletes that can do it all really well, but it is definitely exciting to watch and it makes it really fun to watch the overall, right?
Yeah, it sounds like something I think of when I play golf, which is you got to manage your yourself, which is, oh, I can go for the green in two, and you really shouldn't be, right? You should
Yeah. Yeah.
pick an easier club, lay up, and get like, and that's the same thing when picking your race schedule. Basically,
Totally.
I could do enter 40 races, a year, and
Yeah.
compete in everyone, but maybe I shouldn't.
Right. And I think like what are your big goals? Are you trying to win every race? Are you trying to obviously you're trying to win every race, but are you I don't know, it's like, sometimes for me I can only really speak how I felt, and I felt like a lot of times if I did speed, I felt a release of tension, like, I was like, "Oh, okay, this is so fun to do this event, I have less stress," and then it maybe made me relax in the GS and slalom, But then other times, I would say it made you tired and you didn't have the result in the slalom, which is the result that you were expected and could actually perform in, and that would take away from it. And that's something to think about.
Yeah. So a quick number of sort of quick questions. Just
Yes.
what's your favorite slalom hill?
Zagreb. Love
And why?
Zagreb. Oh my gosh, like what I was talking about, the atmosphere. 100% best atmosphere for me. The fans loved me. I loved them. I loved the feeling. I loved you're in a city and you went like walking around the city and found all these really cool. There's an underground walkway through this like mountain that they have in the town, and the city was alive, and then you went and raced a slalom race. Like that was so different than all the other ones. I really loved that place.
That's cool. Best skier you ever trained with?
I mean, I would be dumb if I didn't say Michaela. Michaela was a phenomenal person to be able to train with. But Sarah Schlepper, I have to say, all around racer, like to be able to race at this age and to be such a good skier, like her finesse of like just like her technique and everything. And she was a great one to race with and train with.
Do you think that was the last we've seen of her at the
I hope
Olympics?
not. I hope she's crazy enough to go again. She's got to keep going at this point.
Right. I mean, why not? Just why stop now?
I know.
um, is there a run that you still remember vividly?
um, I mean, I'll probably always cherish my podium. There was a lot that weekend, a lot of fun. I remember really like fun ones. There was like a race in Sierra Nevada that just stole my heart. I just loved how I had like one of my biggest bibos in GS, and then the next day I was second after the first run, and I ended up straddling. But like there were some really great races like that, where you just could remember the whole weekend, every feeling you had, all the thoughts you had, and just the places that we got to race. And I was good at that. I was good at creating like the whole weekend and the atmosphere and the travel. It was all a part of it.
Okay. Most underrated skill in ski racing.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I mean, watching somebody like AJ Hurt, she has these like she always pulls off some ridiculous like it's always like if you're about to crash or something and then someone can pull off something that's like out of this world and keep it going. That's probably the most underrated thing, because obviously you don't want to be making mistakes, but man, if you can pull off a mistake and keep it going and get in second run a good run or whatever it is, keep the points, whatever that is, that's a skill.
Keep hope alive.
Yes.
Although it's you mentioned Paula earlier, her acrobatic
Oh my
recoveries
god.
to avoid crashing
Right.
are
I mean, she's had some insane crashes that Trisha Mangan has also had some crazy crashes where you're like, I would have broken every bone in my body. So congratulations. Whatever that is, you're doing like you're stretching. It's good.
um, and when you look back on your career, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the like experiences that I had. Like I can always wish I will forever wish that I got a gold medal. I will forever wish that I had more podiums, but not in like a sad way. I really loved all of my trips. I loved traveling the world. I loved getting up at 6 on the mountain, breathing in that, fresh mountain air. There's something about an early, training session on top of a mountain in Switzerland, Zinal, to be, exactly where I will never forget moments like that where you're like, what, how did I get here? I'm so lucky. You're taking the chairlift up before anyone gets out on the hill. The sun is rising, it's hitting you in the face, and you have this fresh corduroy, this like perfect, I'm not kidding you, like the most amazing snow and a glorious day ahead of, a cappuccino at one of the chalets after. Like, how can you not love the journey and where you've come and, all that you get to do as a ski racer? It's so special. So I really like look back on all those fond memories.
Yeah, the sport does give us a lot apart from the racing. It's the
Oh,
the memories,
yeah.
the vistas,
Yes, the people,
the
you
culture.
meet so many people, the cultures. You would never get to experience all of that if you didn't, have this ticket to travel the world like that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
You said you earlier that you would never close out your career on an injury, and let's talk about your closing out your last race.
Mhm.
You won the U.S. national championships in
Yes.
slalom. Uh,
Yes.
that must be kind of remarkable going out on a high note like that. Is it expected, unexpected? What is that feeling like?
I think I was very focused. I knew the end was coming. I didn't want it to end. I would have gladly raced. My husband was making fun of me the other day. He was saying, "You could make a comeback. You could be the first one to come back after 3 kids." And I was like, "Don't tempt me with a good time." I loved racing so much. So going out was not something I ever wanted to do, but it was time. Had, been, I think, 2 years at that point without the ski team's help. And that's sort of, what I was talking about. I didn't want to leave the sport on my low, even if it was someone else's, like just telling me that I should. I wanted to go out on my terms. That doesn't mean that you like have to win to go out. That doesn't mean that people who go out on an injury, that can happen for many people. That's not a bad thing. For me, I was lucky enough to have come back from the injury, and then I did 2 years on my own. And financially, after that, it was really not possible. Um, and I was kind of knowing the end was coming, so I had gone to Ore for the last World Cups. I had still been trying as hard as I could to qualify, to give myself a little hope that I could do it. And I didn't. And I felt like I felt complete after that a little bit more, where I'd given a whole season. I tuned my own skis. I learned how to do that at 34, which was ridiculous. I actually really enjoyed it, but obviously probably wasn't very good at it. And then I don't know. I really, especially winning that last race, I was like, okay, it's time. There's always that, what I think it's Jerry Seinfeld talks about. He went out on the 9th year, and he talks a lot about if he should have gone one more year with Seinfeld. So I don't know. There's like a lot to be thankful for. And I went out for me at the right time, probably. And I could always have kept going. I loved it so much. But yeah.
Well, there's still plenty more in life to do, and it
I
doesn't have to
know.
be ski racing.
No. And I mean, having kids, if you're lucky enough to have them and can have them, man, that made all of, everything change after that. I had no
Yeah.
regrets.
We'll wait till they get older, but then no.
Then I'm gonna start my comeback. No,
Yeah. You come back to talk to me in a few years.
right.
Well, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. Did I just hear one in the background?
Yes, banging on the door. The timing was perfect.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for joining me today. I've really enjoyed having this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I loved it.
Terrific. And glad you plugged Fresh Corduroy. That's my conversation with Resi Stiegler. I really enjoyed that one. I think what stands out most is the perspective she brings to the sport, the resilience through injuries, the joy she brought to racing, and the appreciation she still has for those simple moments on the mountain. Thanks for listening to Fresh Corduroy. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast wherever you listen and share it with someone who loves skiing as much as you do. Until next time, get out there and find some fresh corduroy.